Some people are probably afraid to be happy for others because the people they've been happy for shit on them when they try to do their own thing. Yes, there's crabs in the bucket that pull you back, but there's also crabs in the bucket who are out of the bucket that don't help you out of the bucket.
If you're not tearing other people down, if you're taking control of your own envy, if you're taking control of your own emotions, if you're taking responsibility for your own life, and if you're trying to do your best with all you have, and you're really working hard to stay integrous and authentic, I think there's something to be said for that.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1747, it is Freestyle Friday. If you're watching this, you can see because it is dark in my studio and somewhat dark in Alan's studio. I'm guessing your window faces the sun, or mine doesn't.
Facts.
Facts, not opinions. So
never once thought about it.
No, I think about it all the time. Every time you log on, I think about it because I can see your shades. It's a whole thing. I'm the artist of the crew. So as you know, for Freestyle Friday, we usually hop on here and try to just talk about what we're thinking about, what we're going through, what's on the top of our mind. And this is what I landed on today, Alan. I landed on the fact that authenticity is everything. And here's why. A lot of lessons are connecting based on a lot of experiences. And I logged into a Zoom room today, or a meeting room, and I was singing. I was being on a podcast. I was on a podcast, and I was singing. I always just do like a da-da-da-da. And I think I always get really good feedback on that. People are always like, oh my goodness, you're in such a good mood. And that's just me trying to be authentic in that moment where I'm kind of a weirdo when you first meet me. It's very possible that I'm going to be a weirdo. And I think over the years, it went from me saying, okay, I have to, when I'm speaking, I have to speak in this way, and these are the words I have to use, and I can't say this, and I can't laugh, and I can't make a mistake, and I can't do this, and whatever. We were on group coaching last night, and you said, anything else, Kev? Anything from you? And I was like, nah, man, I'm good. That's something I never would have done in the past because that was me being authentic. It's like, I don't think I have anything to add. There's no reason for me to pretend I have anything to add. And I have found that the more authentic I have become, the more comfortable in myself I have become. And then when you become more comfortable in yourself, you're more authentic. And it becomes this beautiful loop of, when I do this, I feel a certain way. When I feel a certain way, I can do this more. And that was my thought, because I think being authentic is one of the hardest things in the world. You've heard me say this before. We all want to be ourselves. But unfortunately, being ourselves is also one of the hardest things in the world. So that's my thought. That's where I am for this Freestyle Friday.
I think the irony, the paradox is...
the paradox.
The hardest thing, yeah, of course. The hardest thing in the world is to be yourself. And I think it's because it takes tremendous courage. And I think it's because everywhere where you're very unique is statistically not normal. So whenever you find yourself on the very far end of a statistical abnormality or anomaly, on the very far end of either side of the bell curve. So what's a good example of a bell curve? Okay, take all the basketball players in the world, and there's a very small percentage that are extremely good at the sport. And there's a very, very small percentage that can't even play the sport. Most people fall in the middle of the bell curve. Looks like a bell, that's why it's called a bell curve. Anywhere where you don't fall in the majority is scary for humans. And so as you lean into who you are, you fall less and less and less in the majority. And I think it stems, everyone knows the feeling in high school where you don't fit in and you're afraid that your friend isn't going to be there at lunch. I was someone who overcame this quote-unquote not fitting in by trying to fit in with everybody. So I was friends with the best football player. I was friends with the nerds. I was friends with the popular girls. I was friends with the smart people. I was friends with the computer people. I was friends with everybody. I tried to chameleon my way into all these different groups, even the punk rockers that had guitars. Like, I was friends with everybody. And I think two things happened. Number one, I lost myself. And that's been really apparent in my older years. And number two, I learned a lot and became very well-rounded. And as I've gotten older, this thing is like digging into my chest. So if I keep moving my microphone, that's why. It's really quite uncomfortable, to be honest with you.
It's making noise. Can you adjust it? Because it's making noise every time you do it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's gonna. I have to be out for that reason.
I see. I see that, and I appreciate that. It needs adjustment for good. I'm gonna lean forward a little bit for this one. I do not like my mic placement right now. I hate it, actually, and that upsets me.
We're trying something new, and when we try new stuff, it makes things challenging for sure.
You know what it is, Kev? I went on a podcast earlier, awesome interview, but this new setup is completely different than the other setup.
Yeah.
So I keep moving my microphone.
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it definitely is not.
That was my
optimal.
fear when we did this. I said, look, I'm going to have to move my stuff every time.
I know.
And you're like, nah, dude, don't even worry about it. And here we are now.
Well, in my head, it was worth it, but now I'm second guessing.
Well, I can't go back now. I like this way better.
Yeah, this is great. Okay, so I'm not even on the screen now, so let me fix this. Here we go. We're going to do that for today's episode. All right, so number one, I lost myself because I was trying to fit in and belong. And belonging is something we all crave as human beings. And number two, I was very well-rounded. I fished, and I played basketball. I played all the sports, and I was with the nerds and the computers, and I also with the sports and all that stuff. So you end up very well-rounded, but you also lose yourself. And I think that there's a pro and a con to everything. So as you get older and older and older, hopefully you're learning more and more and more about yourself, and hopefully you're having the courage to be more and more and more yourself. But here's the problem. When you lean more into who you are, your uniqueness, and you get closer and closer and closer to the tail ends of the bell curve, you are in the minority. So I was on with a person that I coach earlier today, and I was talking to her about abandonment and belonging, and that's been a theme just lately of understanding that stuff. And I said, whenever you're on the minority, if you have a fear of abandonment, you're not going to lean into it. So she's in her 50s, early 50s. She's in very, very good shape. She exercises every single day, and she's very beautiful for her age. And there was this experience that she had this weekend where her neighbor came over and kind of crapped on her a little bit with the whole, you're losing too much weight thing. And you can stop now. You don't need to lose anymore. And then completely ignored her, and then ended up talking to her husband. And at the end of the day, I told her this. I said, you cannot inspire others without triggering envy. I said, how in shape is this other person? She said, not. I said, how well developed is this person? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual development. She said, not. Probably 2 out of 10. And I said, well, you got to understand, she just doesn't handle envy well. So she ignored you and was kind of unkind to you, and in some ways unjust. But you have to understand, the more you shine on your end of the bell curve of being in shape in your 50s, I mean, there's not a lot of people that are in magnificent shape in their 50s. Yep. So you're going to get some love for that, and reverence and curiosity and awesome attention. And you're also going to get some really negative stuff. And you kind of have to own that in advance, I've noticed. So, for example, you and I are very grateful to be impacting more people in every regard. Coaching, speaking, podcasting, writing. It's been great. But we also have to realize in advance that we're going to get more negative comments. We're going to get more people calling us posers. We're going to get more hate, more envy, but we're also going to inspire more people. And so one of the biggest distinctions that I've come to recently is that you cannot lead by example and lean into whatever your own unique flavor of greatness is without triggering other people, without sparking envy. You cannot inspire someone else without at least a little bit of envy. And everyone handles their envy differently. When you see a guy in the gym who's in way better shape than you, Kev, there's a bunch of different ways Kevin can react. And hypothetical Kevin, this isn't the ways he reacts, but there's one, you fight, not a physical fight, but you tear him down. 2, you avoid him, and now he feels unloved or avoided or whatever, unlovable or doesn't belong or whatever. So fight, flight. Freeze is the person just disassociates and pretends you're not even there, just kind of like someone who's on autopilot, not really present with you. And this used to happen a lot in my fitness modeling days. I understand this differently now, but these responses happened all the time. Or number 4, they fawn and they just want to be around you and they want to take a picture with you and they want to be a part of whatever you are and they want to bask in reflective glory. It's like, Kev, you know this. You taught me this. Researched this and then told me it was a thing.
I made this up. This is my scientific discovery of the 21st
yes.
century.
So there's Berging and Korfing. It's cognitive biases. Berging is basking in reflective glory, and when your sports team, quote unquote, is winning, you want to be associated with them. When they're losing, it's like, we suck. I don't want to be associated with them. And so the Celtics, you mentioned that on an episode recently. So, I'm a Celtics fan because we win. And it's just, it's a natural human tendency to want to be associated with status or whatever. So those are the 4 normal trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those are the trigger responses. All humans have them. There's a 5th thing that could happen when Kevin sees someone who is in way better shape than him. But this is really, 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 really rare. I actually think it's 3% of the population, if not lower than that. And it's curiosity and reverence. This is the way I would react. And I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal. I think this requires a growth mindset and it requires self-belief. And so if Kev has a growth mindset and self-belief, when he sees a guy who triggers his envy unconsciously. And again, this is all unconscious. No one's like, I think I'm envious. Like, this is all autopilot stuff. Kev might get curious and have reverence for this guy and might go up to him, and you've done this. I've seen you do this, dude. Good for you. Strong work. You did that to me way back. And I needed that. That was really great because I didn't get a lot of that. I was mostly getting shit on, to be honest.
Unfortunately the way it works.
Yeah, it meant a lot to me, really.
I'm grateful.
And yeah, I really appreciate it. But reverence and curiosity is, holy crap, man, good for you. What are you eating? Like, what's your diet like? How do you train this? How did you get in such great shape? That's curiosity. That was always my trauma response. I didn't realize how rare that was until later on.
Yeah.
And now I realize that that's the one that's constructive. Whenever my envy is triggered, I try really hard to have curiosity and reverence, because to me, greatness is so inspiring. I love seeing people succeed. I love seeing people do amazing things. I mean, I live for that. That's why I love movies. You get to see these people who have, and again, obviously fictional and sometimes true stories, but I love the ones that are based on a true story, because these people overcame tremendous odds and did something and accomplished something magnificent, and it's just unbelievable. And so it inspires me, and I have reverence, and I also learn from it. I stay very curious, and I realize now that you need a lot of self-belief, and you need a lot of growth mindset for that.
If I ever have moments where I villainize, it's usually in something that I don't believe I'm capable of, I would say. And fitness that's not one. Right? I've always believed in myself when it comes to fitness. That's something I've been doing for a long time. So I've always tried to be quick to say to someone, "Hey man, you're crushing it." And usually it's, "Hey man, you're crushing it," because I know it can be.
Is it really that simple from your perspective?
Yeah.
It's just someone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
dude. When you have self-belief and your trauma response, or your positive constructive response is what I would call it, is growth mindset and curiosity. Let me learn from this person. Let me be inspired and motivated. You don't really understand why people mistreat you. Like, my whole life, I've always wondered. I feel like I'm I'm by no means perfect, but I've always wondered, like, why are people so cruel to me? I don't understand. It never made any sense. It really is starting to make sense now. Genuinely. It had nothing to do with me.
No.
Some of it did.
Well,
some of it was arrogance. And,
but it's probably less than you originally thought. There's someone in our family that is pretty close to being like a full-time TikTok creator. They do, I don't know exactly what they do. I should know that.
You say our family, you mean Next Level?
No, in Tara and I's family.
Oh,
in the extended family. I'm always cautious to let people remain anonymous when I don't know whether or not they want to. And I can imagine that there's a lot of people in this person's life who have a little TikTok thing going on who would look at that and not be able to show curiosity and reverence. Because if you don't think you can do it, in the beginning, I'm sure I wasn't excited for podcasters that were crushing it because I didn't believe I could crush it. I'm sure of that.
Isn't that so interesting? Because if you don't believe you can crush it, you won't have your response be curiosity and learning and growth. Therefore, you actually won't crush it.
Yeah, but even now,
versus
it's not curiosity for me. It's more give love. It's not necessarily curiosity. I don't necessarily go in and ask a ton of questions. It's more I just want you to feel seen.
Can we talk about why it's not curiosity? Because that's the cheat code, right? I mean, I remember early on in our relationship, you asked me one time something along the lines of, how do you know all this? I remember we were doing spreadsheets once. You're like, where did you learn all this?
I've asked you that many times.
And it's just curiosity compounded over time.
Well, I think you're more curious than the average person. Like, sometimes it's stuff that, like, I know I could look like the guy at the gym if I wanted to. I just have the belief. I'm just not willing to do what it takes. It's not a lack of knowledge, I don't think. Really. I mean, could that person teach me something? Of course. But I don't really care about knowing it, I guess. I don't have to be.
Why? I'll never this is good. I'll never understand that. To me,
the reason I'm not doing better is not because I don't know better. It's because I'm just not doing better. In a lot of areas.
No. A lot of it is because you don't know better.
When it comes to fitness, it's not.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? It's
yeah. But with podcasting in the beginning, it definitely was.
100%. What happened was I tried to get around people who I thought knew better, and then I realized they either didn't really know better.
Yeah, that's been brutal.
Or the way they knew better was just not aligned with what I wanted to do. That was when I went, the first ever podcast event I went to, I've only technically been to one, I had like a midlife crisis because there were so many people that were doing it in different ways, and it wasn't a judgment on them, but it was more, that's not how I want to do it, so I'm not curious at all to how you've done that. That's out of alignment for me the way you're doing it. You do you, but this isn't a booth I'm going to hang out at. I don't care. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
But how do you know that you couldn't learn how they're doing it and then take a nugget from that?
I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could, and I'm sure I could do a better job of that. You know me. I struggle to learn from people I don't like. I do. Yeah. I struggle to learn from people I don't like because if I don't respect you as a person, it's really hard for me to take lessons away. It's very, very hard for me.
That's called the unliking bias. It is super hard.
Respect is big. If I told you this behind the scenes, I respect Evan Carmichael way more now after spending time with him. He's a really good dude behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And everybody in that room is there because he's a good dude. And that's why the room was so positive.
But you said that room of all these successful people, so that was yesterday's episode. You mentioned one of the very obvious character traits or attitudes, whatever you want to call it, demeanors, personalities, was curiosity.
They all have very, very high self-belief. Most of them, not all of them.
I remember one time someone asked me, it was one of our early team members, I'll keep it anonymous, but she essentially said, I don't understand. How do you know all this? And I said this, and I meant it. I had to know all this. Like, in order to achieve my goals.
Yeah.
So one of the things that sucks about self-belief is if you don't have high self-belief, you won't set real goals that are high, and then you won't learn, because when you don't have goals, you don't have to learn. Like, I don't know anything about HVAC. Now I do, because our HVAC went down and we didn't want to call someone, and we did actually end up getting somebody, and then they weren't able to come in until July, and then we had to interview. We're not going to, listen, let's just figure this thing out. And it was mostly Emilia, so she did research, and now I understand how the system works. I'm not going to go study HVAC. I don't need to know that in order to achieve my goal. But I have to study business and leadership and communication and podcasting and speaking and training and coaching and writing. So most of what you know or don't know in life in terms of knowledge and understanding is actually predicated on your goals. But if you don't have self-belief, you won't have big goals. If you don't have big goals, you don't have necessity to learn. And if you don't have necessity to learn, you're in so much trouble, because when you don't know much, you kind of can't win in a way, unless you're really manipulative. But I don't think anyone wants to. I think that'll crush your soul.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think maybe there's the competitive aspect of it, where it's like, I'll go figure it out myself. I don't know. I really don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with self-belief. When it comes to fitness, I think that's the thing that I've always had the most belief in, more than anything else. So it was, hey, good for you. I know you probably don't get this often because you're probably the most in shape everywhere you go. And I've been that in the past for sure, and nobody ever gave me love. It was, if anything, it was quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I remember working out with when I was dating someone and they were in college. I remember going to UMass. Which UMass was it?
Lowell?
No, out in the Western Mass. Amherst.
Amherst, yeah.
And I remember working out in that gym, and it was like, I don't think people like me very much because I'm in very good shape. So I really would have enjoyed, and I have had the experience of someone coming up and saying, hey, man, you're crushing it. I don't know if that's my energy, because I would say I probably get that more. Again, I'm shorter, so if I was a giant, if I was 6'5", maybe it wouldn't be the case. But I've gotten that a lot. I've gotten a lot of people that have come up to me and given me love. So that's the thing for me, is I know what it feels like to be on that end.
Well, it's intimidating to be really jacked, especially around someone who might be on any level insecure.
Yeah.
And so there was a time in my day where I would have had trouble giving you compliments in the gym when I was really struggling with my physique.
Understandable.
But honestly, I don't know if I can honestly say that, because I think even then I believed in myself. So
that's why
there was a short time that was a dark time where I remember struggling to give love.
Yeah.
But it was very short. It was like a 3-month period. That was my most depressed time. And I was kind of a shithead a little bit. Like, honestly, I remember there was a very short time in my life where I was so, I remember telling one of my close friends, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel confident, and I don't feel like myself. It's almost like I can't be happy for others. And I used to say this, Kev, and now it lands, but I never did back then for anyone. But I think now I get it. I used to say, if you can't be happy for others, you're a shithead.
Very scientific.
Like, yeah. I remember feeling like I was not a good person because I wasn't happy for others. There was a very short time in my life where I wasn't happy for others. And I remember thinking, if I'm unhappy for someone else's happiness, I'm a bad person.
Do you still think that?
Yes.
Really? I don't think
if you're unhappy for someone else's happiness, you are not a good person.
I don't think that.
I do.
What if you're in a bad place?
You can still be happy for others. I've been in the worst places.
Yeah, but you've always had belief. You've never not had belief.
Being unhappy for someone else's happiness is the definition of a bad person.
I would disagree. And again, that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything.
Fair.
That's the beauty.
Unless they're a terrible person, in which case I'm not happy for their happiness.
I've been there, so I wasn't a bad person. I just didn't think I could. I didn't feel like I was going to be successful. I didn't love myself. I thought I was going to be a loser. I thought I was going to be unsuccessful.
I was there for a time. I was, and I remember feeling awful about myself.
But you weren't a bad person. You weren't going out of your way to sabotage people's success. You just...
That's true. But I would say that there was some... I remember I would purposely not compliment my girlfriend at the time because I was afraid she would leave me. Like, that was not my best self.
That's fair.
And that's my truth.
That's fair.
Okay,
but I think
let
there's
me
a
rephrase
difference between being your best self and saying, like, and again, that's my opinion. My opinion, your opinion don't have to be the same.
I do think that if you are unhappy for other people's authentic happiness, assuming they're actually wonderful human beings, by the way, because my girlfriend at the time was a wonderful person, and I remember I was not happy for her, and I remember feeling like icky about it, and I remember thinking, this is not good, this is bad, I need to go get help, and it was a very short time, but it was a dark time, and I want to rephrase what I said, because truth be told, I know that if you don't believe in yourself, I know it's hard to be happy for others, particularly when you don't think your future's bright or you don't think your life, must be nice. Mm-hmm. But here's what I would say. I don't want to label you a bad person or a good person, because I think that life is a spectrum and we all have dark places and bright spots. And it's a journey. What I would say is you do need to look in the mirror and get help, because if you can't be happy for someone else who's a wonderful person and for their success, you need help, because that's an indicator that you're in the dark. I think it's a good indicator. And yeah, this is a good example of what you opened at top with, which is I'm scared to be me, because I do actually kind of think that a little bit. Like, I think this world would be a better place if people that are not happy for other people's happiness, it's kind of like the crabs in a bucket, pull other people down thing. But to your point, not everyone pulls others down. Some people are just alone and then deal with that on their own. So let me rephrase what I said. This is my truth. If you're unhappy for someone else's happiness and then try to sabotage their success and happiness, you are not a good person.
I would agree with that for sure.
Okay, so we got there. And hopefully no one takes the other clip.
Well, I think it can go both ways. That's one of the unique pieces of being on the other side of what is perceived as success in the podcast industry. Again, in business success, we're not successful. I feel successful, but compared to other businesses, we're not really. Is I always try to give love to podcasters who are at the beginning. So I went on a show today, and I made it a point. This person just recorded their 100th episode. I was like, hey, congrats on 100. That's huge. Nice. But some people will immediately say, well, it's nothing compared to you. Get out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it from compared to me. I'm saying that as congrats on 100 episodes. Mm-hmm. Take me out of the equation. It's not about me. It's about you. That's why I'm giving you the compliment. But I understand that not everybody would do that. Yeah. Some people with 1,700 episodes would say, just getting started, huh? And that's not constructive. Is that the truth? That's the truth of me. Yeah, you're just getting started if you want to come to 1,700. But maybe you didn't believe you could get to 100 like me. Maybe you didn't believe you could get to 200 like me. Maybe you didn't believe you could get to 500 or make $1 with a podcast or whatever it is. So I think that's an important component of it too, is some people are probably afraid to be happy for others because the people they've been happy for shit on them when they try to do their own thing. Yes, there's crabs in the bucket that pull you back, but there's also crabs in the bucket who are out of the bucket that don't help you out of the bucket. And I think those are two very, very... So I have empathy for both sides because oh my goodness, my laptop's not charging. That would be devastating. That's a huge oversight. Where is it? We do have to go in a minute anyway.
I really, really appreciate this conversation because a lot of times we say just be good people, like just be a good person.
Yes,
and that's what this podcast was originally built on, which is character over everything. We used to say that all the time. #character over everything. What is someone who's a wonderful person? And here's the truth, too. You lose meaning when there's no delineation. You don't know what a good person is until you've been around a bad one. You can't understand the world if you don't look at the full spectrum of it. So, for example, I was on with someone earlier, Nicole. Shout out to Nicole. Nicole's on the NLU team.
FYI,
Nicole is one of the...
You have 2 minutes to your next meeting.
Yeah. No worries. I also think that's a team member, and I think we're going to be good. So they understand. Yeah. Because I think this is important. Nicole is one of the best humans I've ever met. She's just unbelievably positive, goes out of her way at all times to try to be the best, most virtuous human possible. She has a huge heart. She lives a wholehearted, honest, authentic life. She is constantly trying to do the best thing for everyone, not just for herself. She's just, in my opinion, the very definition of a wonderful human being. And of course, she's not perfect. No one is. Okay? But on the spectrum of human beings, she's on the very, 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 very high end. Compared to what? Compared to the people who tear others down, who don't want to see others win, who are selfish and ego-driven, who are constantly sabotaging other people to try to feel better about themselves, who bully people and make fun of people and get other people to feel bad and manipulate people. So there are people out there, that are manipulative and are not good human beings. And if you don't face that inevitable truth, you're in so much trouble. And how dare we not give Nicole the credit she deserves for being such a wonderful person? And the only way you know someone's value is to compare it to the alternate, to the other perspective. Like when I stole sunglasses from Target, that was not my best self. And I should be held accountable for being not a good person. And that's my truth. Now, does that mean I'm an awful person and I should be incarcerated and punished? No, that's not what I'm saying. That's too extreme. What I am saying is you should not have reverence for someone like me back then as much as you do for someone like Nicole now. And that is my truth. And so if you're out there and you're trying to do all you can with all you have to do what's best for the world, and you're aiming at the highest possible good that you can believe in and conceive and conceptualize and orient yourself toward, you deserve to be celebrated for that. And if you're not tearing other people down, if you're taking control of your own envy, if you're taking control of your own emotions, if you're taking responsibility for your own life, and if you're trying to do your best with all you have, and you're really working hard to stay integrous and authentic, I think there's something to be said for that. And no one's perfect. We all make mistakes, but some of us own them and learn how to do better. And so I'm very passionate about this because I have personally been very, very, very hurt by wanting to believe everyone was a good person when the truth is it's just not true. It's not true. And if you want to believe everyone's a good person, you're going to get horribly manipulated. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody.
But if you believe everybody's a bad person, you're also going to miss out on a lot of stuff.
And I do not believe that either.
I know. But I want to...
Not everyone's good. Not everyone's bad. It's a spectrum. And I appreciate you, Kev. This was fire.
Yeah, this was good. I enjoyed this very much. You got fired up.
It's It's a good topic.
You got fired up. It's supposed to be about authenticity. Did we keep it about authenticity? I'd say in a Freestyle Friday kind of way we did, yeah.
Yeah.
I would concur with that. All right. Please, if you have not left us a review and you feel pulled to, and it is your truth, please leave us a review on whatever platform you are watching on or listening on. You can't leave reviews on YouTube. Maybe one day you'll be able to, but whatever you're listening to us on. And if you haven't subscribed and you want to make sure you never miss an opportunity to get to the next level, please subscribe on YouTube, whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on. It helps us find more amazing people like you. And when we grow the community, everything grows. We grow as humans. Hopefully you grow as humans. And then bada bing, bada boom, it just keeps getting bigger. What do you want to talk about before I let you go? Anything?
I think just the last thing is one thing that you and I have always agreed on, Kev, is that people who take advantage of other people
are the worst.
That's what we're against.
100%.
And if you're not, if you're for love, you have to be, against something. And so NLU is helping you all listening or watching build a bigger, better, brighter future and become the best version of yourself. And Kevin and I built this really disliking bullies and people who take advantage of other people. That's what we're against. And I think we stand firm in that despite some of these debates. So that's what I want to end with because I think it's really powerful and it's what we built this on. And if you're out there and you're being taken advantage of, we got you and we're going to help you climb out of that.
Would you consider this a debate? I don't think that was a debate.
Oh, it was good. I think it was a very healthy...
It was a conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. I was going to say...
There was a little bit of a healthy debate, I think.
You think that was a debate?
Well, I said some things, and then you said some things, and then we drove to 5 really beautifully, I thought.
I feel like that's just a conversation amongst Jeffs.
But I also think debates are good.
Yeah, you like
debates. Yeah, debates make us sharper.
I don't like debates.
Oh. Well, it was a healthy discord where we both got better.
Yeah.
And hopefully everyone listening did too,
I hope
right?
so. I hope so.
That
That's
was
the
great.
ultimate goal. Selfishly, you and I get to grow a ton because of the podcast. So hopefully somebody finds value in it also. All right, we're going to take off. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. We're grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Don't get taken advantage of. Next Level Nation.